Hello everyone, and welcome to our postgraduate digital event. We're really happy that you could join us this morning. My name is Darren. I work with the student funding team here at DMU, and my small team has got lots of expertise in the areas of student finance, student funding, loans, bursaries and scholarships, etc., etc. So hopefully we're going to help you during this session, and we're going to talk about all things related to postgraduate finance and funding here at DMU. Hopefully going to help you to understand in a bit more detail how that kind of works. We'll also be answering your questions throughout the live stream, so please leave us a comment if you'd like to join the discussion, or if you have any questions about postgraduate fees and funding. I'll try and answer them as we're going along, and maybe that we wait until the end to answer them if we can't do that during the actual live stream itself. There will be time for questions at the end. We're going to talk about postgraduate loans today. It's a complicated area, and if you've ever received an undergraduate loan, you will know a little bit about student loans and how they work. These postgraduate loan products are a little bit different, so I'll be when I'm going through this, I'll be pointing out where there are similarities between those undergraduate and postgraduate loans, and where there are some differences, and there are some differences that you need to be aware of. So let's talk about the postgraduate master's loan. It's a loan. It's a non-means tested loan, which means student financing that aren't really interested in your income or a partner's income or your parents' income when they're determining whether or not or how much you can receive and what your eligibility might be. So if you're entitled to receive it, they will just award you the maximum amount if you want to take the maximum amount that's available to you, and that's £11,570 for your master's course. That's if you're starting in 21-22, which is the coming academic year. That rate will be slightly more if you're planning on coming in 22-23. The increase is quite small each year, but there is an increase all the same. So if you are coming in the following academic year, the rate that you'll be able to get will be slightly increased. It's paid in 3 instalments per year of study. So if you're on a 1-year course, you'll get 3 instalments. If you're on a 2-year course, you'll get 3 instalments each year, and roughly half of your money in each year if you're on a part-time 2-year course. The money is paid directly to you, so all the money comes to you, and this is the difference between undergraduate and postgraduate loans, of course. In terms of undergraduate loans, you get paid the tuition fee loan and a maintenance loan, so you get separate payments. One goes to the university to cover your tuition fee, one goes to yourself to cover your maintenance. With the postgraduate loan, it is very different. There is no tuition fee loan element, so all the payments come to you, and it's up to you, therefore, to make your own arrangements to pay your course tuition fees to the university. So you can do that in a number of ways. And it's up to you to make that arrangement in order to pay your tuition fees. So the money's paid directly to the student. As I mentioned before, the maximum amount you can get is £11,570, but you don't have to take that much if you don't want to. You can take less than that. For example, you might want to take just enough to cover your tuition fee. That's absolutely fine. You can do that. And if you wanted to adjust the figure upwards during the academic year, perhaps you decided that you actually borrowed £5,000 on your postgraduate master's loan, but actually you could do with a bit more, so maybe £7,000 instead. That's fine. You can do that. You can adjust the payments upwards, and that's absolutely fine. What you can't do is adjust the payments downwards, if you see what I mean. There are rules around previous qualification and study which you should be aware of. So you need to you can't have an existing master's loan or an existing master's qualification and get a postgraduate master's loan. So if you have already done a master's previously, then that would exclude you from receiving a postgraduate master's loan for doing any future master's courses. And also, if you've done an undergraduate extended course with a master's element, and we have a few of those at DMU, electrical engineering, I think, is one where you can do an extra year on your undergraduate and come out with a master's at the end of it. If you've got one of those, then that will also preclude you from getting the master's loan as well. So those previous qualification and study rules are important. The only other difference I would say is around fees and tuition fees for the master's courses. Undergraduate, of course, most of the vast majority of the courses are £9,250 per year, and that's across the board, regardless of what course that you're studying. But for postgraduate, the fees will vary quite significantly. So some of the arts courses are lower costs, and then if you move up into something like business or some of the science courses, which have much more contact time, then the tuition fee is higher. So do bear that in mind when you're looking at which course you want to do. The course fee can vary considerably, so do take that into account when you're looking at your funding and how you're going to fund yourself throughout the course. So that's an introduction around postgraduate loans. Let's have a look now at some eligibility issues. So residency is important, of course. If you're ordinarily live in England and you've lived in the UK for 3 years prior to the start of your course, so prior to the 1st of September 2021, if you're starting in the coming academic year, then that covers you in terms of eligibility. You can also become eligible if you're an individual that's been granted leave to remain in the UK as a stateless person, or there's some other categories as well, I think, that now count. And the big one we need to talk about, of course, is the changes for this academic year for students who are coming, or students who would ordinarily be classed as EU students. So previously, if you were coming from the EU, you could get a postgraduate master's loan. Those rules have now changed as a result of Brexit. I'm sure you've heard of Brexit. There's been lots of talk about it, of course. So if you're an EU student now, or you're from the EEA, or you're a Swiss student, you're not entitled to a postgraduate master's loan unless you've applied to the EU settlement scheme and you've been granted pre-settled status as a minimum. So that's quite an important one. If you are an EU student, you need to have applied for the EU settlement scheme and have been granted pre-settled status as a minimum. Age, we have to talk about age as well. So you have to be under age 60 on the first day of the first academic year of the course. So under 60 on the 1st of September 2021, again, if you're starting in this coming academic year. You can't owe any money to Student Finance England or any other loan company, because that can affect your master's loan. And what we mean by that is not that you've already got a loan, because most people will already have loans at undergraduate level. That's absolutely fine. There's no problem with that at all. However, if Student Finance England or your loan provider have requested that you make some repayments because you've reached the threshold in terms of earnings and you haven't paid it back and you owe them some money, then that may prevent you from getting a postgraduate master's loan. Other sources of funding as well, we'll just mention that around NHS or social work bursaries. If you do get an NHS or a social work bursary, then you cannot get a postgraduate master's loan. And the social work one is quite an interesting one, and we might cover that in a question towards the end of this session. Okay, before I move on to the next section, I'm just going to check to see whether there's any questions that we need to look at. Okay, I don't think we are, so we'll carry on. So course eligibility. Yes, another key difference between undergraduate and postgraduate funding. So the undergraduate level, vast majority, if not all courses, are eligible for funding. That's not the case with masters or with postgraduate courses. So there is some eligibility issues we need to raise and highlight for you. So it needs to be a master's level course. You have to register on a master's level course. You can't register on a postgraduate certificate or a postgraduate diploma. Those courses aren't eligible if you're studying with Student Finance England. You can get support for those courses if you're coming from Student Finance Northern Ireland, but not for Student Finance England or Student Finance Wales. You have to be studying 180 credits. That's also key criteria. So you can't be what we call topping up. And topping up is where you perhaps already have a postgraduate award. So you might have a postgraduate diploma, 120 credits, and you just need to do another 60 credits in order to get your master's. That isn't eligible. You wouldn't be eligible for funding if you were just doing 60 credits to top up. Yeah, you can't get funding on that basis. It can be The mode of study, so it can be full-time, part-time, or distance learning. It's absolutely fine. There's no distinction for this type of funding. So that can work for a number of courses, and we have all courses that cover those modes of study. Where we have also some issues in terms of eligibility is around course length, but not all course lengths are eligible for funding. Vast majority of our courses are, so a full-time course lasting 1 or 2 academic years, and we have some courses that cover both of those. A part-time course lasting 2 academic years that has a 1-year full-time equivalent, and that covers the vast majority of our courses. Most of our courses have got a 1-year full-time version and a 2-year part-time version. Those ones are absolutely fine. Where we do have some problems is around some of our courses from our chem faculty, so computers, engineering and media faculty. Some of our part-time courses there aren't 2 years in length, they're 2 to 6 years in length. They're flexible courses, and those ones aren't eligible for funding. So what I would suggest is, if you're making your postgraduate application for funding and you get to the stage where you select the course that you're going to be studying, if you can't find your course listed on that list, then do give us a ring. Our contact details will be available towards the end of the session, and we'll try and help you, of course. So part-time course that are eligible, so if it's 2 years and it's got a 1-year full-time equivalent, that's good, that's no problem. Or it's a part-time course lasting 3 or 4 academic years that has a 2-year full-time equivalent, or a part-time course lasting up to 3 years that has no full-time equivalent. So we don't have so many of those ones. We have a few distance learning courses that last 3 years with our business and law faculty. Some of our law masters last 3 years. I'm not sure we've got one that lasts 4 years. But in most cases, courses are eligible. But if you can't find your course on the list, there'll be a reason for it. So do give us a call or email us to ask for some advice and guidance on that. Has to have a fixed end date as well. So I mentioned those courses that last 2 to 6 years in our chem faculty. Those ones are not eligible on the basis they don't have a fixed end. So it has to have a fixed end date. It can't be something that the student decides when they want to complete the course. And another key difference from undergraduate funding is no repeat year funding available at master's levels. So if you're doing a 2-year course perhaps, and you fail a couple of modules and you repeat them, and just those modules in the following academic year, you wouldn't get the remainder of your funding until you've progressed on to the 2nd year of your course. So that's a key difference. Okay. Let's talk about repayments as well. So we have to talk about repayments. Everything we're talking about at this stage in this presentation is repayable. So repayment starts in April after you've finished or you've left your course. And in the same way to undergraduate funding, it is linked to your salary. So any deductions that you're due to pay to repay your student finance will come directly from your salary via your employer. And the amount, though, is different. So this is another key difference, and the threshold is different as well. The amount that you will pay is, the threshold rather is 21,000. So it's 26,000 something for undergraduate. It's 21,000 for postgraduate. So you will start to repay your postgraduate master's loan before you start to repay your undergraduate loan. And they're taking a smaller amount for postgraduate. They're taking 6% of your income over 21,000. So it's a smaller amount, but you will enter repayment earlier than you would do for undergraduate, simply because those loan thresholds or repayment thresholds are different. Interest, of course, is charged. The interest rate changed on the 31st of August. It was previously 5.6%. Not sure what it is now, so check on the Student Finance England website to have a look at what the current interest rate is for a postgraduate loan. Student loans are not recorded on your credit score, and the loan belongs to the student, and any loan not repaid after 30 years is going to be written off. So that kind of covers the main points about it. Let me just talk about how you make your application. So applications are done online. You can do it by paper, but the best way and most efficient way is to do it online via your normal login. If you've already got a login for Student Finance England, perhaps your normal customer reference number or your student support number, everything stays the same with that. And it's an apply once loan product. So that means if you're on a 2-year course, you only need to apply in the 1st year. Your application will be rolled over to the 2nd year. automatically. If you're an undergraduate, of course, you have to make a separate application for each year you're studying, but that is different for postgraduate. Again, so another difference, makes it a little bit easier going through the application process. And you can apply within any year of study, but within 9 months of the start of the academic year. So 9 months from the 1st of September, if you're starting in the autumn session. And that's something you can do. So if you're doing a part-time course, you could still apply in your second year and still get the full amount of funding. But that only applies really if you're doing it in the second year. But you do have 9 months to apply if you're doing it full-time, your course full-time. Student Finance Wales have got a similar loan product to this one for Student Finance England. It is means tested and is a bit more generous, but broadly works in the same way. Student Funding Northern Ireland, very different in terms of the way that works. That is just a tuition fee loan, so no payments made to the student, and it is capped at around about £5,500 overall, but it does allow for postgraduate certificates and diplomas for you to apply to be funded for those awards, whereas the Student Finance England one doesn't. Student Finance England helpline is available to you, so it's 0300 100 0607, and when the funding cycle opens, which is normally around about June-ish, end of May, June each year to apply. So you can apply if you're this coming academic year 21-22, then you can apply now. But it opens usually the same sort of time every year, give or take a few weeks, end of May and June. Reasonably straightforward process, normally takes a couple of weeks from submitting your application to approval, and that's quite pretty quick in terms of student funding, and certainly quicker than undergraduates. And the other thing we need to think about is our welfare team. So our team is here to help you throughout your time here at DMU, and we are experts obviously in the area of student funding. So if you have any problems at all from the application stage, or actually when you've started at DMU and you're having problems with your student funding, or perhaps you don't understand something about it, then we're here to help you, and our details will be on the screen there for you. Okay. So I'll just finish off. The way we'll finish it off is just by having a look at some additional bits and bobs of funding which may be of interest to you. So there is some additional support available from DMU that I want to highlight. And the first one is the Postgraduate Alumni Scholarship, which is something which the DMU offers for recent graduates from DMU, a discount on certain master's courses, not all I think, but a generous discount, and very helpful for students who want to go on to do their master's study. We have our DMU Support Fund as well, which is a fund that we have which helps students who are in financial hardship. So if you've encountered circumstances where you've had an emergency, perhaps something has happened to you at home, so an unforeseen circumstance, you can perhaps that's affected your funding or your ability to fund yourself on the course, then maybe one of your parents has lost their job or something like that. You can apply to the DMU Support Fund for additional help for the time while you're on your course. It shouldn't be something that's regarded as an automatic thing or something which is something you're entitled to. It will depend on, it's a means tested application, but if you do get money from that, then it's money you get to keep. But you shouldn't think of it as something that's automatic or something you will be entitled to if you apply for. Not everyone gets funding from this, and there is an expectation for postgraduate students that they have funding to fund themselves on their course from the outset. But it's there for those emergency situations where you do need additional help because of unforeseen circumstances. We also have our care leaver and estranged student continuing bursary for those students who come from those backgrounds, a care leaver, or if you're estranged from your parents and you are regarded as estranged by Student Finance England. Those are available as well, and there's details on the website around those, and all those awards are non-repayable. Other sources of funding, we have our I would suggest are good ones. Work placements, of course. So some of these allow work placements, these courses, which will be useful because they're paid, of course. Bank overdrafts. If you've got a student account already, don't forget to tell your bank that you're doing a master's course, because they can extend the terms and conditions of your student bank account. So worthwhile telling them that you're back studying again. So can they treat you as a student? If you've got an interest-free overdraft, of course, that's always useful to dip into if you're running short of money before your next student funding payment comes in. You can always dip into that and then pay it back when your money does come through from student finance without any interest charges. And of course, family support as well is important, even if that just extends to a bag of shopping from time to time. So that wraps up what we'd like to say. So I think it's time to answer some of the questions we've had now. So let's have a look and see what questions we've got. Okay, this is a question from Jamila. And Jamila says, if I finish my undergraduate in 2012, can I get a 30% discount? I'm not sure of the terms and conditions of the scholarship I mentioned, the name of which escapes me, but I forgot what it was called. It was the alumni scholarship, I think. I don't think if you graduated in 2012, you can get a 30% discount at all. But you need to check the terms and conditions. It has to be recent graduates, I think. So somebody in the last couple of years, graduating in the last couple of years, I would say. So I don't think the answer to the question is no, I don't think you can get a 30% discount. Got another question there. Question from Hardik. What about 30% for DMU students that have 2-1? Yeah, you'd need to check the terms and conditions. This is the sort of thing that is raised at the stage, at the application stage. So when you're making your admissions, the admission team should pick that up, that you're a DMU graduate with a 2-1. I think 2-1 is the minimum amount, but you would need to check with admissions. And as long as you are a recent graduate, then that should go in your favour. But I don't know the terms and conditions entirely. But if you are a recent graduate with a 2-1, it puts you in good stead, I would say. Okay, any other questions? Okay, can I get a postgraduate master's loan if I already have a master's degree? No, is the short answer to that. If you've already got one, there's rules around equivalent level qualifications. So if you already have a master's, then no, you can't get another master's, a postgraduate master's loan to do a master's degree. Obviously, you can do a master's degree, nothing to stop you doing that, but you wouldn't get funded for it. You'd have to fund it yourself. I'm doing a PG dip. Can I get a postgraduate master's loan? Again, the answer is a no, unless you're from Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland is your usual residence. Have to be doing, for student finance England, you have to be doing a master's degree, and you have to be doing 180 credits. So the answer to your question is no again, I'm afraid. Okay, so another good question. Do part-time students get the same amount of loan funding? Yes, they do. And the only difference with the part-time funding is the way that it's paid to you. So you'll get paid 3 installments for each year of funding or each year of study that you do. So if you're on a 2-year part-time course, you'll get 3 installments in each year, so 6 installments to cover your funding. You'll still get the same amount, but you'll just get it spread out further over your course. And if you're obviously a full-time student, you'll get 3 installments over 1 year. So it kind of works like that, but you do get the same amount of funding. There's no difference to the amount of funding that you get. Okay, I want to do MA social work. These are good questions. Can I get a postgraduate master's loan? Tricky question. This is probably the most complicated question for postgraduate master's funding. You can, but you have to have applied first for the social work bursary. So for the MA social work, there are a restricted number of social work bursaries available, and certainly there are less bursaries than there are students on the course. So not everybody on the MO social work course can get a social work bursary. But in order to qualify for the postgraduate master's loan, you have to have applied for the social work bursary first, and then have been told you can't get it because there aren't enough to go around. Then you can get a master's loan because you've taken all the steps in order to get the social work bursary, but you haven't been awarded one. So it's complicated, so the answer is kind of yes and no. If you're getting the social work bursary, no, you can't. If you aren't getting the social work bursary, but you have applied for it, then yes, you can. Told you it was a complicated one, though. Can I get a postgraduate loan if I'm distance learning? Yes, is the short answer to that one. That's absolutely fine. There's no difference between full-time or part-time or distance learning. Absolutely fine. And the key difference is around course length that we've talked about. So some of those course lengths are the ones that aren't eligible. Those are the kind of things you've been looking for. So, but there's no difference between mode of study. How you're actually doing it is fine. It's course length that's the most important thing, and the award you have to do a master's, of course. If we've got any more. Oh, it's from Rexia. Hi, Rexia. If I apply for student finance now, would I get the instalments in time for October? What date are we today? 15th of September. I think you probably would. It'd be quite close. But I would say yes, you would. If you submit your application now and it's straightforward, so you've got all your identity documents and stuff like that, then I would say you'd probably be fine. It would take probably 2 weeks to come through. It will probably be approved around about the start of term, I would say. But it's a much more straightforward process, and it's much easier for the assessment to go through. So yeah, I would. If you were applying for undergraduate funding, I would say no chance. You probably wouldn't get it until November. But because it's postgrad and it's much more straightforward, I would say yeah, you'd probably be fine for the start of term if you submitted your application today. Hope that one helps. When can I apply for postgraduate loan? So that's a good question. So like Rexia, if you're like Rexia and you're hoping to start in October, in a few weeks' time, you can apply for it now. If you're hoping to come in the subsequent academic year, 22-23, then you'll be able to apply when the cycle opens, end of May, beginning of June. It moves around a little bit, but it's always around about the same sort of time. And you can make your application then. We always recommend an early application, just so that you can get your application approved and you know that your funding is in place, so you know what you're going to get. That allows you to plan for the start of your course. Of course, if you're knowing where your funding is coming to and when you're going to get paid, it just gives you a bit more in terms of budgeting and stuff like that. So yeah. Good question from Uchenna there. Can I access student loan as international student? Probably no. Extremely unlikely unless you meet particular criteria. You'd need to have indefinite leave to remain in the UK and have been here for 3 years prior to that. So extremely unlikely. I don't know your personal situation and what your visa status is, but it's extremely unlikely as an international student. Okay, well, I think that's probably all we've got time for now. We'll finish the live stream there, I think. Thanks very much to everyone for listening and for your questions. There's still a lot coming up as part of our postgrad digital events, so please make sure to explore the other live streams. Before this live stream ends, though, we do have a video we'd like to play for you, which highlights student life in Leicester, which is a great student city. Which we hope you can look forward to visiting or coming to see us in September. Have a great day, and we hope to see you at DMU soon. Thanks very much.